Hello everyone, and have I got a stupid one for you today. Today we're going to figure out if you can beat Hitman by only dumping bodies. A couple caveats to start this off though. No, you cannot beat Hitman by only pushing people off of ledges because they either need to be unconscious or standing next to a ledge already for you to be able to push them off. And most, not all, but most targets don't just hang around on balconies alone waiting to be pushed off, so we'll need a means of incapacitating them first. That means for the purpose of this run, we'll be able to incapacitate our targets through any means necessary, though this will be 99% cans of spaghetti and wrenches to the head, and then we can dump them off ledges. Furthermore, every single enemy we incapacitate must be thrown off a ledge, because if it was just our targets we had to do this to, it would be way too easy. Now, you might be thinking that this still isn't hard enough, because what's stopping me from just clubbing everyone in the head and then running through afterwards and throwing them all off a ledge at once, making it only marginally different from a standard run? Why, arbitrary rules, that's what. In addition to the rules we laid out before, we are 100% obligated to throw each and every single enemy that we incapacitate off of a ledge immediately before we're allowed to attack anybody else. No exceptions. With that all laid out, let's get into it. First up is Showstopper, and for our gear we'll be taking along the lockpick and coins. Coins, as you'll see, are the absolute MVP of this run, and the lockpick is just all around useful, especially when additional weapons can't be used. This loadout won't change at all throughout the run, so I probably won't bring it up again unless there's something notable. We'll also always be starting out in our basic suit in the standard starting location, since that seems like the fairest and most challenging way to play. First things first, we drop our guns, since we won't be needing it, and head straight into the party. My initial plan is to follow Novikov around and get a feel for his movements, but this quickly hits a snag when he keeps going into restricted areas, and there aren't any easily accessible ledges around to help me pick up a costume. We decide to head on up to check in on Dahlia instead, and figure we can probably pick up a usable disguise while we're at it. So we scale the side of the house, and luckily happen across a solitary guard with top level clearance standing on a balcony. With all his luck coming at once, we knock him out, steal his clothes, and dump his body. This solves pretty much all of our immediate issues, and we can now wander just about wherever we please, as long as we take care to avoid enforcers, the enemies who can still detect you even when you're wearing a disguise. It doesn't take long to find Dahlia, but we have a problem on our hands in that her bodyguard is actually doing his job properly, and we need to get him away from her in order to have a shot at our ultimate goal of defenestration. His wits are no match for walking into a bathroom right in front of him, opening the door and throwing a coin on the ground though, so we manage to lure him away and dump him through the convenient interior window. Dahlia leaves without him, I guess assuming that he had to drop one real quick, and while she's out we visit the same fate upon the guard stationed in the room. This leaves us with an empty room that Dahlia likes to walk through every now and again, and it's only a matter of time until we can follow her in there and take out our first target of the game with minimal fuss. If only the same could be said about what's about to come next. Okay, now that we have a disguise, it's back to Novikov, and this guy is a doozy. Not only does his bodyguard hang off of him like a bad smell, but Novikov never leaves the ground floor of his own volition. Ever. We have managed to lure his bodyguard away, but this just leaves us stuck with nowhere to dump the body, meaning we can't kill him even if we do get him alone. But luckily, I have a plan. And that plan is to methodically kill every single person who stands between Victor's patrol path and the nearest secluded ledge. This ledge, by the way, is outside the back of the house, through the garden gate, and all the way at the back of the garden. This means killing every single guard in the garden, every guard that patrols even somewhat close to the garden, the guards patrolling the helicopter, and the guards in the foyer at the back of the house. Oh, and also some lady who's sitting directly in our path on her phone for some reason. One by one, by knocking each of them out and painstakingly dragging them all the way to the ledge on this ever-elongating path. But we do it. And one by one they all fall. Get it? Because they're literally falling? Because we're dumping them over a ledge? Eventually we get to the point where we can isolate the bodyguard and drag him to his demise without being spotted, and it is glorious. Even better, this provides us with the perfect method for dealing with our target. While we've paved the road to the killing ledge with drag marks and sweat, there is a better way. Using the bodyguard's phone, we can call in an alert, triggering Novikov to scramble alone to the museum office upstairs, where we can finally reap the seeds of death that we have painstakingly sown, throwing him off the front balcony to his oh-so-timely demise. That done, we get to the choppa with zero resistance because we already murdered everyone in the way, and leave Paris with our objectives complete and the run intact. Next up is World of Tomorrow, and despite having played both these levels an equal amount of times, I seem to have a better handle on this one, so I suspect it'll go a bit smoother than the last. The first thing I remember is that if we move fast enough, we can snag the cook's uniform from the guy shouting on his balcony before he even goes back inside. This gives us our fastest uncontested entry into the level proper that I'm aware of, and so once we make it inside, we raid the pantry for our weapon of choice, cans of expired spaghetti sauce. Looking around this beautiful villa, it's also clear there's no shortage of ledges to throw people off of, which has me excited for what's about to come next. Our first point of focus is a ledge near the back of the property that's secluded enough to lure enemies into and start throwing them off the cliffside, which we do until we manage to get the costume we're looking for, the Golf Pro. This lets us call and seduce DeSantis, give her the sauce, and then carry her upstairs so we can throw her off the balcony. Not much to say here, she's far and away the easier kill of the pair on this level. Caruso, though, is another matter. He stepped up what Novikov was doing last level, and he has 2 bodyguards following him around at all times. Luckily for us, though, their patrol route takes them a hell of a lot closer to a fatal ledge than Novikov's did, so it isn't too difficult to lure them away from their boss with shiny coins and or cans of spaghetti, hit them over the head, and feed them to the abyss. After that, it's just a matter of following Caruso into his office, saucing him in the face as well, and then throwing him off the same balcony where we killed DeSantis. Wow. That was such an incredible amount easier than the previous level, though we still have one last thing to do, and that's destroying the virus samples in the basement laboratory. Getting in is easy since we have the key that we lifted off DeSantis, and after a few false starts we managed to take out a security guard who's watching an isolated lab tech and take their clothes, which we can use to get ourselves all the way into the virus room. We tried a couple times to take out the virus discreetly, killing the rats and distracting the other techs with shiny coins, but every single time they kept coming back and fixing our sabotages. Then, one time I screwed up being discreet, got caught by a scientist who kept on doing what we were doing, and they just got scared and ran away, allowing the virus to be destroyed. Huh. Since they weren't a guard though and had to run away to fetch someone who could be properly mad at us, we just made a mad dash to the plane and got away successfully, for an overall relatively easy second level. After this is a gilded cage, and we start this one off by murdering the headmaster and his son, pretty much just to clear out the shop, because it has a lovely roof to throw people off of, as they certainly prove. This allows us to lure a soldier in with promises of candy and good times, and then throw him off the roof for his outfit. Now kitted out in the local attire, we can waltz straight into the school and go after General Zaydan. We start off by picking off a couple guards on the second floor in preparation for waylaying the general, when we happen to luck out and spot him just leaning up against an open window. After managing to take out the one guard who could see us kill him before Zaydan left, we just push him out the window, taking what has to be the easiest kill of the run. A little disappointed, but no less determined to finish the level, we move on to the embassy to see if Strandberg won't give us a little more of a challenge. Getting in isn't too difficult, since our militia outfit is enough to get us in the front door, and we manage to sneak upstairs and take out an embassy guard for his pants without much difficulty. The main challenge of the embassy is that there are no exterior windows open, so we're forced to dump everyone we kill over interior railings, increasing our risk of getting caught. We try to maneuver Strandberg around a few times, get caught dumping other guards, and then Strandberg also serves himself up to us in the most ridiculous way. Just as we're staring down a guard, wondering how to throw him over the railing he's watching without getting caught, Strandberg runs up to him and tells him to go pick up the gun from the first guard we killed. As the guard is doing this, Strandberg just stands around, completely alone, save for the guard with his back turned to us, so we promptly beat him over the head and drop him to his death before simply walking out the front door completely unmolested. That level was certainly anticlimactic, especially compared to what we went through on the first level, but I won't complain about the relative ease because I happen to know what's coming up next. To start off Club 27, we don't really have much of a plan. This is a level where I typically just pop the targets in the head and run away, so the need for added nuance should add a little spice to this challenge. Except that it doesn't, and this level just turns out to be a complete and utter mess. We get spotted early on, and instead of reloading our save, I decide it makes sense to run ahead and scout out what exactly we're dealing with here before the guards eventually take us out. We get as far as the first part, but somehow find ourselves in a small room with a balcony and a hotel guard. Sweet. We throw the guard off the balcony, naturally, and suddenly we're allowed to be where we are. After some aimless wandering, we manage to locate a sound crew outfit that we can use to get onto the top floor where Jordan Cross, our first target, is waiting. And this guy is a big problem, because the only ledges available are staircases that are watched from above and below, alongside there being fancy glass walls everywhere, so it's tough to get him alone and killable. We eventually manage to lure him into a secluded room where we can knock him out, and then experimentally drop him down one set of stairs before sprinting down the other, not really expecting it to work particularly well. If you've been following the trend of this level though, this naturally works out perfectly and we're on our way to take out the second target, Ken Morgan. I wish I had more to say about this guy, but he clearly went to the General Zaydan School of Self-Preservation and hangs out both right next to the exit and a convenient ledge. We take him out quickly by throwing a coin for his bodyguard, letting us push him right to his death, then punching Morgan in the face and throwing him down to join his protector. We then run the short distance to the exit, winning the level. This one is a bit upsetting to write about because it was one of the longer levels time-wise because there were a lot of failures and restarts and loads, but that didn't translate into me having anything interesting to say or show for it. There's a lot of aimless wandering which doesn't really make for interesting footage. Moving on. Now this is the level I've been dreading. Not only is Freedom Fighters generally my least favorite level in the game, but it's pretty flat, there are 4 different targets, and there are roughly 1 million enemies who get aggressive pretty quickly. I usually favor long-range shooting on this level, which obviously isn't an option in this run, so it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. Right off the bat, there are no ledges anywhere near our starting location, which means we will be without a costume for the initial foray into the base. We managed to sneak in without too much incident, and then managed to get on top of a roof with lots of incident, and after a bit of trial and error, we've managed to snag ourselves a militia tech costume. This has us in the area of Penelope, so we investigate trying to take her out, but the area is super wide open and flat, so we decide to move on and come back later, which will turn out to be a good choice, as we'll see in a bit. Moving across the map to Parvati's area, we managed to score a Spec Ops costume, which is an upgrade, and start clearing out everyone in the barn that we can. This barn is an excellent area for this, since it has lots of corners, multiple balconies, and gives us access to Parvati pretty readily. After quite a bit of luring people upstairs into their deaths, we finally managed to take out our first target of the level, but we do get caught dragging Parvati up the stairs and have to book it back to our old militia tech outfit to shake off our compromised disguise. This is pretty short-lived though, since we managed to pick up a fresh set of elite militia duds on our way over to the house. I know Ezra typically hangs around here, but we noticed that Penelope is also in the area, and the house sure seems like a better place to take her out than where we first saw her, so we beeline it over and start clearing out the upstairs. The first window we try to use is less than ideal, since it just lands our victims on a lower roof that they also have to be tossed off of, but we eventually do find a better window and start throwing everyone we possibly can out of it. It's during this phase that our decision to come to the house has proven to be the absolute best one we could have possibly made, since Sean Rose has also made a surprise appearance and is hanging out alone in an empty room, letting us kill him with absolutely zero issue or fanfare. Seriously, I think the targets have a collective death wish this run or something. It has never been this easy. After this excellent advancement, we continue our streak of good fortune by isolating Penelope and dropping her over the railing inside because we want to spice things up a little bit instead of using the killing window again. While the early level was pretty rough, things have really sped up since we made it into the house on account of there being lots of lovely corners and high places to throw people off of. Kinda like the barn, but with even more walls. We waylay Ezra in the basement when his bodyguard just happens to turn around faster than him, and drag him all the way up to the same railing as Penelope, sending him to an identical death. That done, we grab the mask unmolested to open the secret room and finish the level. What I had initially been dreading actually ended up being one of my favorite levels of the run, and that's probably the coolest thing about doing these challenges, is that sometimes when you're forced to play a different way, you find the fun in parts of the game where you normally wouldn't. That being said, I had no idea they all visit the house on this level since they don't typically live that long when I play this game, so it was a nice surprise and changed level difficulty from nearly impossible to surprisingly doable. Last on the docket is Citus and Versus, which has a couple major issues. One is that we don't get our beloved coins to start off with, and the other is one we'll get to in a moment. The first thing we do upon leaving our room is victimize a poor handyman who had the misfortune of keeping his tools near a ledge. This proves to be unnecessary as well, since we immediately jump a couple railings and sprint past a camera into an area where the handyman isn't even allowed to go anyway. Sorry for that one, buddy. Over here we take out a doctor, which allows us to go near the helipad, which allows us to take out the pilot, which allows us to take out the drug addict head surgeon. All of this takes place conveniently near a ledge because we're on a cliff top, so disposing of corpses is a non-issue. The head surgeon has the run of nearly the whole hospital, so I was going to go after Yuki Yamazaki next to avoid dealing with the headache that is Eric Soder's, but I was having a bit of trouble figuring her out and decided to kill him first after all. The problem here is that Soder's fails the run. Period. He starts out unconscious, which should be a win, but he's strapped to the operating table with robot arms all around him and can't be interacted with like a normal body. Even after he's been killed, there's nothing you can do to move the body, meaning we can't throw his corpse into the abyss like we have been with all the others. I thought maybe we could try curing him on the operating table and then kill him from his room or something, but this was also impossible since when you're performing the surgery, the only option available is to do it wrong. Kind of an anticlimax, really. If you have a way that you know of to kill Soders and drag him around, let me know in the comments, because as far as I can figure out, it's not possible. We still have our pride though, so we murder him in a normal way, if sabotaging a robot surgery is normal, and move on to our final target of the run, Yuki Yamazaki. We follow her around for ages, which I'll gloss over, and there aren't really many openings in her schedule to toss her off of a ledge that we can find access to. Until, that is, we stumble across a couple of her lackeys hanging out by the tram station just waiting to be taught how to fly, so we oblige and take one of their outfits as payment. We use this to get into her room and take out most of her guards in there before she arrives. After this, we accidentally let her spot us, and then use it to our advantage by luring her out onto the now empty balcony, basking her over the head, and throwing our final victim off a ledge to her death. Then we head back to the tram and ride down the mountain, finishing the run and proving once and for all that you cannot beat Hitman solely by throwing people off of things. I'd like to say I was disappointed by the outcome, but as I'm sure several of you did too, I saw it coming before I even started the run. I didn't know for sure, but since Soders is never conscious and moving in the level, it wasn't a huge surprise to see that he was immune to our specialized tactics. We went 13 to 14 on targets though, and batted 1,000 on all other kills, so I'm pretty happy with how things turned out overall, and I had a really fun time putting this one together either way. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you'd like to see this done in Hitman 2, make sure you're subscribed and maybe leave a like or comment so I know someone besides my wife actually enjoyed this video. I also have a Patreon that literally one person subscribes to, so if you want to make them less lonely, maybe consider joining up. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.